One of my favorite tools to plan my day and my online business is definitely Notion. And now that Notion, their API is available, we can automate all kinds of crazy cool things with a tool like Integromat. So in this tutorial, I want to give you an idea of what kind of things you can automate. It's not really a full tutorial of all of these separate things. I will just quickly go over them, and then you can always just pause the video if you maybe want to copy some settings. But I, for example, want to show you how you can create recurring tasks, how you can automatically maybe add appointments to Notion, and also how you can synchronize Notion with maybe your Google Calendar. So let's just dive right in. So in case you're not so familiar with Integromat yet, in Integromat you can basically create scenarios like this, and a scenario is basically a little automation that consists of multiple modules with integrations with other tools. And what is so great about this is that you can create all these automations and all these tools to integrate with each other without the need of a programmer or any programming knowledge. But I'll show you this one in a bit because this one is much simpler. So over here I have two modules, and each of these modules is going to create a new task that is going to happen every single week. So I'm, for example, want to create a new YouTube video every week, and I want to do a weekly review every week. So this is a create a database item module. So with this module, I can add a new item to a database. So then over here, you can also see that I selected the task database, and then what is really handy is that all the properties for that database will automatically show up. So then over here I set the task to create YouTube video, I set the status to do, and then I set the due date. So this is also a property right over here that I created. The due date to 7 days from now. So I use the add days function to add those 7 days, and then I format this to a date that Notion also understands, and then I set the estimated time for this item to 240 minutes. Just something I like to do, you don't have to do that. And then we continue to the next module, and then I'm basically doing exactly the same thing again, but this time for a task called weekly review. Now then the status here, we set it again for 7 days from now, and we set the estimated time to 15 minutes. Now why do I add 7 days over here? It's actually pretty simple, because I set the scheduling of this scenario to run at days of the week every Monday at 9 a.m. So every Monday this is going to run, and then it's basically already going to create these tasks for next week so that I have a really clear overview of what already has to happen next week. Now then I want to show you another example that I think is pretty cool. So this is my appointment handler. So I'm using this to automatically send a confirmation email to people that book a call with me. And then I also want to add a task to my database. So the start trigger for this scenario is watching for events inside Calendly. In case you don't know Calendly is a super handy tool that allows people to pick a spot inside your calendar so that you don't have to do any back and forth emailing. So I'm, for example, using this for coaching calls. So whenever somebody is booking a new coaching call with me, then this module will trigger the scenario. Then we go over to the next module. Then this one is going to get an event. So it's basically going to get all the information about that call. So for example, what is really cool, then it's also going to get the join link for the Zoom meeting. And then I can email that join link inside a confirmation email. Now then I also want to add a task to my tasks database about that I have an upcoming meeting on that day. So to do that here, I select again tasks. Then the name of the task is one-on-one coaching call with, and then I map here the name of the person that booked the call with me. Then over here, status, to do, and then I map the start time and the end time inside the due date property. So these are just variables. You can also see that it's like bouncing in and out from this module over here. So here you can also see some sample data here. Start time, 24th of June at 2 p.m. End time, 24th of June at 3 p.m. So that's like 60 minutes. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to add the Zoom link also to that task, so that whenever I go to that task item, that I can quickly also just join that Zoom myself without having to look up that link. So to do that, I use the append a page content module. Now that sounds super taggy, but basically what you have to do here is you have to here click map. Then you have to select here the database item variable from the previous module over here. And then what I did is I added a heading text. So just to make it look fancy, I added here call details. And then over here, I added the join link. So to add another item, you just click this over here and then you get some options to simply add that. So that's what I'm using for appointments. So super cool. Somebody books a call, I send a confirmation email, then I create a task, and then I add the join link of that conversation to that task. So then in the next example, I want to show you how I'm automatically publishing these new YouTube tutorials automatically to my Facebook page, my Facebook group, and also to Twitter. So for that, I'm using this scenario over here. So the trigger module over here is going to run every Thursday at 6 p.m. and then it's going to look on the RSS feed of my YouTube channel. So this is my channel ID if I posted any new videos in the last 1 day. Now then we continue over here and then I will create a new post on my Facebook page, and I create that post based on the description. So over here I split the description based on new lines, and then I only get the first line. So I basically only post the first paragraph of the description of my video and then with the link to that video. Now then I also wanted to post a tweet, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to get that tweet out of my Notion database. So I plan all of my videos in Notion, so you can see that over here. So these are the last 3 videos that I posted in the last 3 weeks. And this one is the one that I'm creating right now. So here, how to automate Notion with Integromat, right? Now then what I can do is I can filter this database for the YouTube link so that I get the correct video, and then I want to extract the tweet. So here I already wrote the tweet for this video, for example. So to do that, what I do is I use the search objects module, and then over here I say search objects, database items, database ID, YouTube, and then over here I created a filter. So I'm filtering the YouTube link, and then I'm going to check if it contains basically the video ID. Now then, if that is found, if the tweet is found, then I check over here, okay, does the tweet exist and is the length of the tweet less than 257? And then if yes, then it will continue through the filter and then it's going to post that tweet to Twitter. So really pretty handy, it's really saving me quite a lot of time. Now then the next example I want to show you is how you can actually synchronize Notion with your Google Calendar. So for that we're going to need 2 scenarios. We need one scenario that is going to check for new tasks inside Notion, and then it has to add those new tasks to the Google Calendar if the task has a date and time in it, because if it doesn't have a date and time, then I do not know where to add it inside my calendar, right? And then the second scenario is this one, and this one is going to look for new events inside my Google Calendar and then adding those events as a task inside my database. So let's start with this one. So this one over here, you can see is running every 15 minutes. And then it's going to watch for new events. So here I selected my calendar. Then I say here, watch for events by created date and get a limit of 5 back. Then we go over here. Then I'm going to check if that event was not created by Notion in this scenario. I will show you how I did that in a bit. But then we continue and then we're going to create a new item inside my task database. So then over here, you can also see that here I selected the task database, task. So here, this is the summary. So that's basically the title of your event inside your Google Calendar. Then the status is set to do. Then over here, we have the start time, the end time of this event. And this will be mapped to the due date property. And then over here, you see that I set something that's called task origin. So over here, you see that I set here Notion and Google Calendar. So those are these things over here. I'll show you that. So if I create a new task, then over here, you see that I have here task origin, Notion, and Google Calendar. That's so that I know where these tasks actually came from. So then this will be added. So then they will be added to Notion, to the task database. And then this one is doing it basically the other way around. So this one is going to check for new tasks so that whenever I create a new task, I want to add these to Google Calendar. So this one is also running every 60 minutes. So over here, you can also see that I did some advanced scheduling. It's optional, you can do that. But I, for example, know that I'm not going to add any tasks before 8 or after 10. So then it will just save me a few operations. So then it's going to check for new tasks inside my task database. And then we go into a filter. And then what you see over here is that I'm going to check if the start date of the due date property exists and if it contains here the colon. Because if it contains a colon, then I know that it also contains time, because I do not want to add new tasks to my Google Calendar that don't contain a time, because again, I do not know where to add them then. And then I want to check if the property task origin is not equal to Google Calendar. So why did I create this property is because if you do not do that, it's basically going to create an infinite loop. Because imagine I create something inside my Google Calendar, then this is going to add it to Notion, and then this is going to trigger again. It'll be like, yeah, we have a new task in Notion, let's add it to Google Calendar. Then a new thing will be added in my Google Calendar, and then this one is going to trigger again. So then you will suddenly have hundreds of tasks. So that's why we do that. That's why we double check that. Now then we go into a router. And then over here, I'm going to check if it contains an end time or if there is no end time specified. So inside Notion, when you create a new task, then over here you can include time, but you can also include end time. So if an end time is included, then I want to go over here and then I simply want to add a new task to Google Calendar. So then over here I said, okay, calendar ID, and then this is the event name. So I want to add the task, I want to add the due date start and also the due date end. And then over here, I say in the description of this event, edit by Notion. So again, we do this because then what I can also do is I can say a filter here if the description does not contain edit by Notion. So then if it's going to find a new event that was created by Notion, then it will also not continue through this filter. So this way it will not go into this infinite loop. So yeah, over here we have a start time and an end time. But if that end time is not specified, what I did then is we go over here and then we go into the fallback route. So this is the route that will be followed in case it could not continue through any other route. So in this case, it's only this one. So then in that case, what I wanted to do is I wanted to add the task still as a new event. I wanted to include the start time of it. And then I use the function add minutes to add some minutes to that due date property. So then over here by default, it's just going to add as an event for 25 minutes. And then again, it's going to add this description added by Notion. So yeah, I hope this gave you some ideas of what you can now automate with Notion with a tool like Integromat. So I know that I went a bit quick over all these examples and didn't want to make this like a 2-hour long tutorial. I will probably make some separate tutorials about this. But if you already have some questions about this in the meanwhile, then be sure to post them in the comments below and I will try to help you as best as I can.